This video is only one part of an in-depth review, so check out the rest at thegoodride.com. Thanks for watching. Welcome to The Good Ride. I'm James Beastie, and I'm just being me in a world that isn't. And this is the Golden Orca. Next to it is a pod of orcas, 2 regular orcas, and 1 apex orca. The one on the end is the 2021, and it's a 150, and it's the one I own and love. I rode this with Union Atlas, Burton Kendos, and I got this in everything from some hard, kind of micro bumpy, uneven snow in the morning to some decent snow kind of midday, but not smooth, not pretty, but fun. And then some pretty messy snow at the end of the day. So being super far behind can sometimes have its advantages. In this particular situation, it did. I got on the 153 for 2023, which seems to be very similar to the 2022 that we rode. And I got it in some perfect morning groomers at Mammoth Mountain. After riding the Gold Member, the Climax, all the Orcas, the 53 and 50, the Apex Orca 153, and riding all those different blunts and pointies over the years, I felt like I knew this board instantly. To give you a short summary, this is not like the Orcas you see next to you here. This has a different side cut. You ride this a little longer. This has excellent edge hold. It's a pretty aggressive board for a hybrid rocker, but still very forgiving if you compare it to Camber, mostly Camber kind of rides. It's got some setback on board, it's got some taper, and it kind of lives in that world that's more on the all mountain side of free ride / tapered directional boards. It really doesn't ride anything like the turny, slashy Orcas you see next to it. This is more of a balanced side cut that likes more of a kind of middle ground to long drawn out straight liney turn. It's poppy, it rides more centered, and it rides longer.
All right, Davey boy here, and this is gonna be my take on the Golden Orca. Like Beastie already said, we had it up on Mount Hood. Conditions were all-time slush. If you've ever been up there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So in the summer, I got to ride the 157 Golden Orca and the 153 Apex Orca. I found that both of them were one size too small for me. I should have had the Golden Orca in a 61 and the Apex Orca in a 56. However, I did thoroughly enjoy the 57 Golden Orca more than the Apex Orca. I thought it fit my size better. My boots were a better size on it. The turn initiation was a little bit smoother. I found that my weight really got on edge, held an edge, chopped through all the chundery midday slushy moguls that we had going on. And overall, it rode better for me. And a couple months later, I was able to take out the T-Raz 159. And I loved that board. I honestly thought it was a more flexy, more playful, wants to spin and pop and go find anything you want to look for over the Golden Orca. I found the Golden Orca wanted to carve and kind of lay down more lines, and the T-Raz just wanted to do everything. But that being said, I still loved the Golden Orca. I thought it locked in on that Mount Hood slushy, choppy snow amazingly. I had no problem just pointing it through any rough snow. It was blasting through moguls. I loved it. I thought it turned with ease. It really laid into some big wide turns as well as like tighter S turns, and it also pointed straight really well. It also hit the park jumps well. I took it through the slushy half pipe, and I had so much fun on that thing. Honestly, the best day I've ever had in a half pipe was on the Golden Orca in the summertime on Mount Hood.
Now, when it comes to sizing, this 57 did not feel right, did not work for my size 9 boots, but Clint in a size 10 loved it. And Davey in a size 12 really loved it, really felt like he had control. Then when I got on the 153, I started to see what all my friends were seeing in the 157. I felt for once I could experience actually what the side cut was doing, and I really liked that. That felt really good. I did feel a little too heavy for it though, at about 190 pounds at the time I was riding it. So it still was a little bit of a mismatch, but I got to know this board's personality and got to experience more of what it's really like. And I think if you're a size 10 at the 153, that'd be a really good fit, especially if you weigh a lot less than I do. Now, when it comes to the shape, it's tapered directional, but it's not as tapered, not as directional as the Orca. It's more of just kind of like a traditional free ride taper, but it has a very centered feel on board, and it feels more all mountain for how tapered it is, and it even has a touch of mountain freestyle thing going on for it. And the camber profile is rocker underfoot to camber, but it's not touching, so the tip and tail are off the snow. What that does is it can feel weird in hard snow, can feel loose and auto spinny when you're flat basing. Like when you're 1-footing off the chair, you'll be the guy sometimes spinning out if you don't put it on edge as you 1 foot off. If you're on a long flat cat track, it'll do the same thing if you flat base. Gotta always want to have it slightly on edge. But as the snow gets softer and easier to ride and more fun, the board becomes more stable and you don't feel that. It's pretty easy to get used to this, so it's not a really hard learning curve like some other types of camber profiles out there. But the good thing about this hybrid rocker profile, it's very easy to skid a turn. Even though this is a kind of a stiffer, more aggressive hybrid rocker, it's still so much easier than any kind of camber or mostly camber ride. Now let's talk flex here. There is pretty stiff flex. This is the 157. The nose is stiffer than the waist, and so is the tail. There is decent twist to it as well. Not super twisty, but there's a good twist. You can play around with this torsionally. Now let's just, for shits and gigs, even though they're not really similar, compare it to my Orca. Kind of almost a softer flex in the middle here, but just as stiff, maybe even stiffer in the tip and tail compared to the Golden Orca. A little more twist too, but very similar flexes. Now compare that to the Apex Orca. It's a little stiffer, a little more aggressive, a little more poppy, but it's also a grand. The Golden Orca is a pretty poppy board, and I just love the way Mervin builds a board. It feels like they really accentuate that wood core and give you some of that wood personality without it being weird or too chattery or bucky. This has good pop to it, springed well for an ollie, and it buttered better than I thought for this flex, mainly because you have that rocker already giving you a start, so then you get more leverage. It's a little easier to butter than you would think. Now when it comes to speed, the base isn't incredibly fast. That's kind of the thing with all lib boards. It's about like just a little above average, but it's not this super fast, easy gliding base. If you love to wax and you want the fastest board possible, you might not enjoy this. When it comes to speed, this side cut is more speed friendly than the Orca. The Orca is no slouch, and the Apex Orca is even better than that. This side cut just allows for a little bit more of a better straight line when you're slightly on edge. And it handles chatter pretty well. Even Davey, he's a big boy. He's like well over 250. He didn't feel this was too bucky and bouncy and too chattery at high speed. It felt like it absorbed chatter pretty well. Not amazing, but pretty well. And when it comes to uneven terrain, it absorbs that micro bumpy chatter in the morning. Well, not amazing, but good. And it's a good all-day resort ride for somebody who's first chair, last call. This could work for you. Now, when it comes to edge hold, it grabs really well in hard snow and not too much in soft snow, not as much as you would think. This extra grip between the feet can be a little grabby, but it's easy to get used to, and it's not like the old Magnatractions that were kind of unbearably grippy in soft snow. This is a nice balance. Great for somebody who rides on the East Coast, great for somebody who sees hard snow often and icy snow. This can grip. You just have to get it slightly on edge so it doesn't have that loose auto spinny feel in hard snow. And once you're there, it grips like a champ and it's amazing. Now, when it comes to turn initiation, it's a nice balanced side cut. It's not too circle carvy and super turny and slashy like the Orcas you see next to me here. The Apex Orca and the Orca have the same side cut, same shape, same everything, just different materials. It's more kind of middle ground. It likes a longer drawn out turn. It likes more just kind of like mellower across the groomer turns, but it can get a little more aggressive. You can circle carve this if you put enough time into it. The one thing though is with hybrid rocker boards like this, the rocker in the middle, when you're really trying to get into some hard aggressive carves, it just doesn't perform like camber boards. Like same day I rode this and then I rode the GNU Banked Country, full camber. The way that board engaged in a turn and springed out of it was just so much better than the hybrid rocker that has the rocker in the middle. So it kind of starts to hurry you up through the turn. You really have to lean back on that camber in the back foot and try to get that to engage to slow the rocker from turning you through. So it kind of hurries you up through the turn a little more than full camber and doesn't spring you out as much, but it's a really good carver for hybrid rocker and you can have a good time on it. I'm not saying this board sucks for carving, but it's just no camber board either. When it comes to powder, I'll take the Orcas or the Apex Orca 10 times out of 10 versus this Golden Orca because there's less taper with this guy. It's more centered on board. There's less nose, even though it's a longer shape. I would take my 150 Orca over this 57 Orca almost every time in powder. But if you want less of that set back on board, you like riding more centered in powder, you don't want that super tapered kind of surfy feel in powder, you want more of a kind of like all mountain kind of more centered ride, maybe throw it around switch here and there. This could be for you. And if you set it all the way back, you can get 2.25 inches back from center of board versus set back on side cut at a 22.75 inch stance width if you set it all the way back. That's pretty good. It's great for all mountain and kind of okay for free ride. Compare that to the Orcas, I think it's like 4.125 inches back on board. So it's almost twice as far back on board and you have more nose than this guy. You can see just there's a lot more nose and it's just a more floaty, more surfy, more slashy board than the Golden Orca. But it's not bad for what it is, and it's a nice balance between having something a little more centered on groomers that can still float pretty well in powder, just not amazing. Switch riding was really good with the Golden Orca, way better than the Orcas. Not quite like the Gold Member and Climax that didn't have taper if I remember correctly. Those did a little bit better, but this was no slouch. And after riding the Golden Orca, I got on a twin and I was surprised at how well it did in comparison to a twin. It wasn't perfect switch, but it did really well and it's very doable, especially for a board with this much taper. Now when it comes to park riding, you're talking to me here, it's not my thing. But I could see how you could have a lot of fun in the pipe and this would be a great board for jumps because just with the tiny little hits that I had, it tracked really well into them and had a forgiving feel when landing. You could spin out if you need to. And overall, this is a good mid-wide. If you're looking for a one board quiver that's forgiving, that grips hard snow really well and can do a little bit of everything well, and you just don't want something like the Travis Rice Twins, the blunts and the pointies. You want something with a little more setback, a little more directional feel, but you don't want to go all the way over to the Orcas that are super set back, super directional. This might be able to work for you.
So in the summer, I got to ride the 157 Apex.
All our reviews are a best effort, objective opinion from an average rider's perspective. There's no brand oversight, and we're free to say whatever we want. We send back everything unless it's a favorite, then we ask to keep those or straight up buy them. Now, if you need advice, fill out the Me Harmony profile in the Contact Us section of the site. It's the only way I can help you properly. If you want to support us, and if what we reviewed appeals to you, it helps if you buy through our links. So thanks for watching.